All right, let's start. I'm excited to talk about this next misheard lyric. It's one that's a well known one. It's one that I didn't hardly know anything about. And doing research on this, there's a lot to share with you listeners. So, are you ready? We're going to be talking about the Clash's Rock the Casbah, but most people have heard it or missung it as Rock the Cash Box. So the correct lyrics is Sharif don't like it. Rock the Casbah, rock the Casbah. And the misheard lyrics is and we don't like it. Rock the cash box, rock the cash box. And then for our cat lovers, I guess there's another misheard lyrics of it is instead of rock the cash box, it's walk the catwalk, walk the catwalk. So that works too. So let's go right into it about what the song's about, the misheard lyric, what the lyrics mean, the video, and a little bit more about the Clash. So, The Rock, the Casbah is a song by English punk rock band The Clash, which released in 1982. So, about, wow, 28 years ago, 38 years ago? Yeah, 38 years ago. And they were known to be an influence in their original wave of British punk rock. They also contributed to the post punk and new wave movements that emerged in the wake of punk and employed elements of such genres as reggae, dub, funk, ska, and rockabilly. And ska, for some who've heard it but don't really know what that type of music is, it was derived from Jamaica and a lot of Jamaican roots there with some jazz, American jazz, and some reggae. So there's some great mixing of different genres in one genre. Now, for most of their recording career, The Clash consists of lead vocalist and rhythm guitarist Joe Strummer, which is funny that his name is Strummer and rhythm guitarist. I just realized that. Lead guitarist and vocalist Mick Jones. So I guess I have a couple guitarists in here. Okay, for the most of their recording career, The Clash consists of lead vocalist and rhythm guitarist Joe Strummer, which I just realized his last name is perfect for being a rhythm guitarist, lead guitarist and vocalist Mick Jones, bassist Paul Simonon, and drummer Nikki Topper Hedden or Heaton. And Heaton actually left the group in 1982, right when this was released. So that's interesting, due to some kind of band friction that led to Mick Jones' departure the following year. So there's some issues there. The group continued with new members coming in and out, but they officially disbanded in early 1985. So essentially, 3 years after this Rock the Casbah was released and became very popular. Now, I know them as a punk rock band. I also know that their lyrics are politicized. They do have a rebellious attitude, and they did have their influence on rock, specifically alternative rock. And in 2003 of January, shortly after the death of Joe Strummer, we were just talking about earlier, um, they had been inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And in 2004, Rolling Stones ranked The Clash number 28 on its list of 100 greatest artists of all time. So pretty legendary. So let's go back to the song. Now, the song was released as the third single of their fifth album called Combat Rock, and it reached number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart in the US, their second and last top 40 and only um, top 10 single in the United States, along with the track Mustafa Dance. It also reached number 8 on the dance chart. Now, the recording of it was interesting because it was actually written musically, so the music part, by their drummer, Topper Heaton, based on a piano part that he was working on, toying with himself. He was apparently in the studio without his other three bandmates, and he started to progressively tape the drum, added the piano and bass parts, recording the bulk of the song's musical instrumentation all by himself. And this origin makes it a little bit different because I guess in other Clash songs it's usually been written, created by Strummer, the lead guitarist or lead vocals guitarist, and then lead guitarist Mick Jones. So this is a different, way of how it was created by the drummer himself. So when the other Clash members actually entered the studio to hear Heaton's recording or Topper's recording, they actually were impressed. They liked the way the musical track went. And so from this point, they were like, okay, so what kind of lyrics do we want to use? And when Heaton showed his lyrics, I guess there was this consensus around the band that they weren't really impressed by it. According to Wikipedia, some some Clash guitar technician by the name of Digby Cleaver. I love these names. Said that they were originally a soppy set of lyrics, quote unquote, about how much he misses his girlfriend. So now we know that drummer Topper was a romantic at heart. So Strummer, the lead vocals and guitar um, part of the band, said, "I'm going to relook at these words." And so he said, quote unquote, how incredibly interesting when he saw the lyrics, and then literally took the piece of paper, put it in a ball, and chucked it over his head. So obviously he's like, we're going to add new lyrics to it, which he did, and came with the phrases of rock the Casbah, and everything else. And what was interesting is after hearing Heaton's music, Strummer went into the studio's toilets and wrote lyrics to match the song's melody. So, like some people, he got his inspiration into John. So the version of the song on Combat Rock, as well as other Clash compilations, features an electronic sound effect beginning around 1:52-minute point to the song. They call it, or the noise is monophonic version of the song Dixie. So let's talk about two things. What does monophonic mean, or monophony, or monophony, I guess? It's essentially the simplest of all musical textures. So it consists of a melody, just like what misheard is, I'm a melody, or a tune, typically sung by one singer or played by a single instrument, like, for example, a flute player, without any accompaniment of harmony or chords. And a lot of folk songs and traditional songs are monophonic. And the weird thing is that some of the version of the song took from that song Dixie. So when I looked up Dixie, it's that song I knew growing up. I wish I was in Dixie, hooray, hooray. So that's some of the versions of the song where it took some of its sounds, or the monophonic version. And then the other thing that was interesting was the sound effect. They used a sound effect source that was generated by an alarm from the Clash's guitarist Mick Jones' digital wristwatch at the time. And I probably had the same wristwatch, but the sound of it was intentionally added to the recording by Jones. So they like that, along with the Dixie part, which I think is interesting. The other interesting thing is the actual meaning of the song. So the song is essentially a fable account, so a story, a fictional story that kind of has a tell, and then something to learn from it. So they said it's a fable account of a ban on a Western rock music by some Arab king. And the lyrics describe this king's efforts to try to stop his population from listening to this rock music or this type of music, such as ordering his military jet fighters to bomb any person in violation of the ban. And so, of course, the pilots are like, I'm gonna ignore those orders and instead play rock music on their cockpit radios. And then the population then proceed to rock the Casbah by dancing to the music in retaliation against this Arab king. Which, when you think of this fable, it sounds very close to the story of Footloose, where a young Kevin Bacon plays Ren and goes into a small town with a very staunch preacher played by a young, what was his name back in the day? I can see him anyway. Anyway, it has the same feeling of, someone trying to stop this town from dancing or listening to rock music, and goes to all these efforts, but again, the town fights back. So there's some juxtaposition of Footloose, the movie, and this song. And the song lyrics actually feature various Arabic, Hebrew, Turkish words. For example, sharif, chic, kosher, and some other Casbah. So I thought that was interesting, the meaning of the song. I didn't really get that as a young kid listening to this. And then the most interesting too is the video. I hope you guys have seen the video. If you've not, go to YouTube or whatever social media site that you like to look at videos, because it's an interesting video. So I can tell you, without first sharing what the breakdown of the video is I just remember the video had a gritty feel to it. I remember there was this chic guy with a big boombox from the 80s, of course, and running around, and there was an armadillo. I don't know why the armadillo was running around throughout the video, but interesting juxtaposition, so that's what I remember. So when I looked up about the music video of Rock the Casbah, it was actually filmed, in all places, Austin, Texas, which makes sense because they're in front of an oil refinery or oil pumping well, which I thought, okay, that could be the Middle East, but it was in Texas. And it was directed by a gentleman by the name of Don Letts, Letts. And it was done in 2 days. So on June 8th and 9th of 1982 is when they actually did the video, filmed the video. So it adds in the video some footage of the clash with, at that time, Terry chimes on the drum because at this time Topper had already left the band, miming a performance of the song with a story depicting two characters traveling together throughout Texas, where in my mind it wasn't Texas, it was somewhere else. But then it makes sense now it's in Texas because in a minute I'll explain some of the famous rest stops that they go to. So the video depicts a Muslim hitchhiker, or in my case, I just remembered it as an Arab sheik, with a Hasidic Jewish limo driver befriending each other on the road and skanking around, as they say, or ska dancing together through the streets to a Clash concert at Austin City Coliseum. At one point, they're eating hamburgers in front of a Burger King restaurant. And what's interesting, because when you see it now, it's the old, logo back then, home of the Whopper, it says. That's where they're in front of. Excuse me. And at point, the Muslim character is seen drinking a beer. The director states that all the imagery is about breaking taboos throughout the video. And you guessed it, this armadillo is repeatedly showing walking near the band members, walking along the road, and following the two characters in the city all the way to the Clash concert. So obviously this armadillo also wants to go to the Clash concert to be a part of Rock the Casbah. The Clash is shown miming a performance of the song in front of a pump jack in Texas oil field, so that's where you see the oil field. And for the most part of the video clip, you'll notice one of the band members, which it is guitarist Mick Jones' face is covered by this camouflage hat veil, and I'm like, what's going on here? And the reason for that is I guess he was in a bad mood throughout the filming and he didn't want to show his face. So it remains hidden until about 30 final seconds of the clip when his bandmate Joe Strummer pulls the hat and you see his face. And that's why his face was covered, because he was having a hissy fit, essentially, everyone. Now, the legacy of the song is interesting, too, because it was one of many songs, but you didn't even realize there was a band. So when the terrorist attacks happened on September 11, 2001, which we remember that day very well, especially a lot of us that were alive at the time, the song was placed on the list of post 9/11 inappropriate titles distributed by Clear Channel. So Clear Channel is still one of the biggest, channels, radio channels owners around. And so at that time, after the 9/11 incident, they sent a memorandum out to all their stations to say, here are some of the songs that we would suggest you do not play because of either their titles or lyrics, vaguely referring to open subjects that could intertwine with the 9/11 incident. For example, any attacks like airplanes, collisions, death, wars, and violence. And go on the list, because there are songs like, yeah, that's obvious. Yeah, we're not going to be playing drowning pools, bodies. But then there's like interesting songs like Daniel by Elton John. And then one of the other things that just caught my eye, because I just sang this recently at karaoke, and it's just one of those cheesy pop songs, was John Parr's song St. Elmo's Fire, Man in Motion. I'm thinking, what? How can that be a band? So I went through and looked at the lyrics, and then I'm going to sing you the lyrics as best as I can as John Parr, and maybe that's why. So judge for yourself. So the lyrics are, play the game, soldier, only... Okay, hold on. The song is, play the game, you can't quit until it's won. Soldier of all, only you can do what must be done. In some ways you're a lot like me. You're just a prisoner, and you're trying to break free. I can see a new horizon underneath the blazing sky. I'll be where the eagle's flying higher and higher. Gonna be a man in motion, all it needs a pair of wings. Take me where the future's lying, St. Elmo's Fire. Thank you very much. So I think maybe it made the list because he talks about a prisoner, soldier, blazing sky, eagles flying high, man in motion. I don't know. But check the list out. I just thought that was so interesting. So hopefully you learned some new things like I did of rock the Casbah, who a little bit about the clashes and some of the internal clashes within the band, obviously, as well as why a certain lead guitarist had hissy fit and wanted to cover his face throughout the video except the last 30 seconds and the band on it. So I think it's so interesting. And like I said out there, if you want to rock the cash box or walk the catwalk, you do what you got to do there. But I love it. I hopefully you learned a lot of things. I did just researching it. And like I said, if you have any great ideas, send it to our email at misheardsongs@gmail.com. That's MISSHEARD songs@gmail. I would love to hear from you. Tell me what you think about this episode. And then please don't forget to also go to iTunes or wherever you listen to us and rate us. And the more you rate us, the more we get higher up. People know more about us, so we need those ratings. And last but not least, keep singing those songs wrong. We love it, and we love to hear from you. So have a good day. Rock the Casbah, rock the Casbah, rock the cash box, rock the cash box. Bye.